happened? Where am I? Am I alive yet?
Yes, we are alive yet. Welcome back. Welcome in. Hope everybody's staying warm. It's frigid out there. Listen, we're in South Florida. Even then, for them, it's probably frigid as hell for them down in South Florida. Wrong scene. Welcome to it. Welcome back in. Welcome to the stream, the cast, whatever it may be when you're watching it at the time. Been a wild day today, yesterday. Up here where I'm at, we are under a winter storm warning, which I think the last time they might have had one through here was 2014-ish, maybe 2014, 2015. And so we're back into that again here in Florida. We're not used to having those types of severe weather. We're used to the well, not really tornadoes, but tornadoes from time to time, the thunderstorms, and of course the hurricanes. But we are actually under a winter weather warning to the point that we may get a little bit of snow here in the Panhandle. Time will only tell. I think the estimates are it should start around tomorrow afternoon, like 6 in the afternoon. I do know that like majority of the schools and offices are closing at 1 around here, and then they will be closed all day Wednesday and won't open up Thursday because again here in Florida, we don't know about this type of stuff. The last time it snowed here was in 2018. It did not accumulate on the ground at all. It just was enough that it flurried down, and it was big, fat, thick little one, fat, thick ones. And that lasted maybe 15 minutes, and then it was over. The only time that I remember being here where it actually snowed was in 1989. That's when I was 8 years old, and it was like 3 days before Christmas. At that point, it started snowing that the night, and it held on, and I think it snowed until the early morning, like you get about 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and it stopped, and by noon everything was gone. So me and my one of my brothers got to enjoy that when we were kids. Still have pictures of it somewhere. But yeah, so this, if it actually happens, will be the first time that it has snowed since 2018, and maybe possibly, because again, they're saying that the Panhandle, depending on where you are, if it snows, it could get anywhere between 1 to 4 inches of snow. So we will see. We'll see how that goes, where that stands, and what all happens with that. But besides that, getting in the news, as you know, Trump took office yesterday, and he went right away to signing all sorts of orders in. Which one? I think he said like over 100 executive orders he made. Just in his first day alone. I think the record was last year was Biden when he did 15 on the first day. So Trump is setting a crazy record on that. Either good or bad, who knows? But he's jumped on it. One of them, as you see, he has designated cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, which I thought they were before. I could be wrong, but I thought Bush Jr. did that after 9/11 when they started naming terrorist organizations. I thought the cartels were considered, maybe they weren't named, but I thought they were considered as terrorist organizations at that time. So I don't know. I could be wrong on that. Either way, they now are on the list. I don't know what that does. That might open the door for military, action against them, which would be interesting. No president has ever done that before, and it'd be interesting. I mean, there's all sorts of movies out there and stories and ghost stories of our secret service. Well, maybe our secret service, but of our special forces, doing things down there, but who knows? We'll see what happens. Yep, here you go. No targeted with lethal force by the U.S. military. Again, I don't know how great that is, how not great that is, but it is what it is. You then had him also, he pardoned about 1,500 January 6 insurrectionists, as they called them. I honestly, I know a lot of people, it depends on which side you are on the line. You're either totally against it or for it. I honestly could care either way. I think the ones that were charged in jail or whatever when they didn't do anything, when they weren't violent or whatever, I could clearly see them being pardoned. I mean, I don't know about the ones that actually went in there, looking to, physically harm individuals, or went in there with zip ties, or even went in there to destroy the place. I don't know why you would pardon them, but he's done that. So talk amongst yourselves, whether you like that or not. Again, it doesn't bother me either way on that. Final moments. He executive order against radical gender ideology, and that is that is one, man. I mean, like I've said before, I don't care how you see yourself, how you view yourself, whatever. That's your life. That's your world. Do what you want. But I do worry about the mental scope and the mental aspect of individuals that wake up one day thinking that they're supposed to be the opposite sex, or wake up one day and they view themselves as a different race, or wake up one day and view themselves as a friggin' animal or whatever it is. I worry about those individuals. And hey, I mean, they're always pushing. You need to respect nature and science. Well, nature and science. I mean, there's only two sex as of now that are listed that we know of, male and female. And I get there are some circumstances in which you have somebody born with both types of genitals, or there's this or that. There's a mutation. There's a defect. I get that, but those are so small in percentage. And look, you're born who you are, how you are. That's just the way it is. And you either get used to who you are, you either accept who you are, or you have a life of just complete mental breakdowns and not understanding where you fit in the world. And it's already hard enough to determine where you fit in the world as a regular person. So again, live how you want to live. If you think if you're a guy that thinks you should be a girl, whatever, go for it. If you're a girl that thinks you should be a guy, whatever, go for it. But you can't push that stuff. You can't force that stuff. You can't suggest to kids that are still growing, at that time, that they should be this way or that way. No, let them be kids. When they turn 18 and they can start making decisions for themselves, and they basically become adults in the minds of the law, then do whatever you want. That's the appropriate time. But so that was one of. I don't know how much this is true about DeSantis, the Gulf of America. Again, I think that's kind of dumb. I think that's on the cheek. I don't think that'll actually happen. I mean, if that does, I still think most of the people in the Gulf region will still call it the Gulf of Mexico. But I don't know how true that is. There you go. The executive order ending the birthright citizenship for citizens of illegal immigrants. Again, whether you're for or against that, I don't have enough knowledge on that. I know there's a big issue of illegal immigrants coming over here to give birth to children, so they get American citizenship. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's one of those on technicalities, but I don't have anything to or for or against that. That's with you guys. You can talk amongst yourselves. I don't know enough or care enough to worry about that. Gulf of America. Again, I still think that's just. Oh, Jesus, John Rocker. Yeah, it's not going to be Gulf of America as much. I like that this one has the deep Water Horizon oil rig pictured on there, the thing that caused one of the worst oil spills in American history, and that's the picture this dude goes with. Good job, idiot. Um, oh boy. Okay, the HUAC tyrannical. Okay, so he wants to withdraw from the worldwide. Funny enough, I just discovered that George Washington is a distant cousin of mine. Apparently, one of my great grandfathers. Um, his niece or his daughter, whoever, somebody Ball was George Washington's mother. So George Washington is a distant relative of mine, which is pretty interesting. Okay, so he's pulling himself out of who. I understand why he's doing that because he was pissed about how they handled everything with COVID, the lies that were told, everything that happened through then. But there's some good things that Who does. Now the problem is Who is I don't think is an organization that now makes decisions or makes findings on their own credentials. I think they are somewhat bought and owned by whatever country has the highest bid on them. And I know that some people are saying that like China owns them. I don't know that, but I mean that is what it is too. So I guess we'll be calling our own shots when it comes to a lot of these health stuff. Again, from who ordering the restoration, freedom of speech, and preventing government censorship. Okay, so here's my thing with freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is good. Everybody should have freedom of speech. Everybody does have freedom of speech. But the problem is there are consequences that come with freedom of speech. You can, if you want to go to work and stand up in your office and yell fire and cause everybody to leave and panic and cause the fire department to come there, and they find out that there was no fire and they find out that you yelled fire, you had the freedom to do that, but you now have the consequences to possibly be arrested or to even be fined for yelling fire in a spot where there's no fire. Just as you could go into a public area and you could shout the most racist things in the world, the most sexist things in the world that you want to. That's your freedom. That's right. The consequences are somebody might come up and punch you in the face. So this whole freedom of speech thing, I love it. It's the ones that they go out there and they say stuff, or they go on social media, or they do whatever. Like that dude in Philly at the football game that was calling that woman the C word and was just giving her just a hell of a time for 15 minutes or however it was. He ends up losing his job. Now, some people were upset about that, saying he shouldn't have lost his job. But that's the world we live in with social media. If you're going to be out there acting like an idiot, your boss, your employer probably has policies regarding you ending up on social media. And if it's in a negative light, they probably have a policy that allows them to terminate your employment, which that's what happened to him. Again, he had the freedom of speech to call that woman whatever he wanted to. The consequence of that was he was recorded and he was put on social media, and his employer saw and fired him because they have the right to. Freedom of speech does not cover you from being an idiot or buffoon. So get off that friggin' sinking ship. Get off that turnstile that you can say anything without repercussion. That's not how freedom of speech works. Freedom of speech works by saying, like, you could come here right now, do what I'm doing, say whatever you want to on YouTube because that's your right, but there are consequences to it. I mean, I could be saying something wrong. There might be consequences to that. So we got to get over this. You can just say what you want without repercussions of freedom of speech. I don't know how it's going. There's Bright Ship. Oh yeah, he's pulling us out of the Paris Climate Accords. And here's the thing with that. I'm all about being environmentally sound. I mean, I'm not an environmentalist, but here in Florida, I mean, we're big on keeping things clean. Not just the beach, because that's where the majority of our state's money comes from, is tourism, but also the lakes and the forest and whatever we have around here. We try to keep them as clean as possible. The problem is we're in this accord with nations around the world that either they do not pay or they're the biggest polluters and do nothing to clean it up. China, Russia, India, um, whoever else pollute as bad or if not worse than us. And yet we are in this thing paying the most. We're cutting our carbons down, but all these other places aren't, and they're in there doing nothing. So I kind of get why he left. And I thought he left it when he was president the first time, or threatened to leave it. I can't remember. It was so long ago. So there's another order that he decided to do. Look at how many executive orders are on his desk. Let's see. Oh, got to go up one more. I went too low. I mean, they said he's signing about 100 and something of them. I mean, good Lord, look at that. My man's hands are not going to be working at the end of this. That was an hour ago. He's been answering questions. Well, all he's got to do is sign. I mean, it's not even that big of a deal. Rescinding 78 Biden-era actions and orders, implementing a regulatory freeze to halt new regulations against full control of government, freeze in federal hiring with the exception for the military and specific categories, requiring all federal workers to return to full-time. I mean, if you're not already working in person, I mean, and I get a lot of things have changed as far as having to work, but if you were still one of those people holding out, claiming that you had to work from home, come on. I mean, what are we doing? Come on. Withdrawing from the Paris Accords, signing a letter to the United Nations to formally announce. Oh, okay, that was the same thing. Restoring freedom of speech, weaponizing the government against political adversary. Yeah, okay. I don't know about this one. This is what sets up witch hunts on both sides, not just the Republican side, but also Democrat side. It's whoever's in power could use that as a witch hunt. I mean, I don't know. That one, I don't know. That'll be interesting to come back to in a couple of years. So, whether you are for or against, those are some of the actions he's taken. I was watching, I watched a little bit of the ceremony, and it's just, hey, look, I mean, say what you will about him and the way he talks, but yeah, sometimes his handlers need to get a hold of him as far as reeling him in on some of the stuff he says, because he gets wild at times. He sometimes runs over and says things. I think he was talking about like some of the hostages, the Israeli Hamas conflict that were released, and he was talking about someone. I think he meant to say like they had their hand blown off, but at first he said head, and then he said hand, and it's just why are we mentioning this? You just got elected today. You don't need to go into that. Just say the family members of individuals were either wounded or killed or whatever. So I mean, yeah, at some point, I mean, his handlers have got to rein him in. But hey, so we're in it for the next 4 years. Again, I don't have. I'm not that political. I don't get overly emotional no matter who's in the office. I tend to I live my life, man. I don't sit on social media all day. I don't sit there in groups of people in echo chambers and either bitch or cheer who's in office. I pay attention to what's going on. It's not like I don't pay attention. I pay attention. I check in at times, and I either go, okay, yeah, or, ooh, I don't know. And that's how I am with things. So with me, him being president doesn't bother me. But I saw it up and down Facebook today where people were like, oh, we're in it for another 4 years. It's going to get interesting. Or they were posting stuff up about, TikToks of people having anxiety. And it's like, Jesus Christ, dude. I mean, life goes on. I mean, you can't let things affect you like that. If they affect you like that too much, then you might just want to leave the country or go somewhere where you don't have to pay attention to that nonsense. Because if you're here, just do two things. Either deal with it, focus on what you can focus on and not anything else, or just understand, hey, he's in now. I don't like it. I'm not going to be happy with it, but it is what it is. But I mean, Jesus, for just to completely just do what some of these people do in these circumstances is wildly crazy. Wildly crazy. Um, NFL is set up. They had, of course, the playoffs this past weekend. Well, the continuation of the playoffs, I should say. Um, I was not surprised with how it ended. I think if we go back to what I said last week, I said I thought the Bills were going to take it, which they did. I said the Chiefs would take it, which they did. I thought the Lions would win. The Lions did not. The Commanders, so I give it to them. Man, I thought the Rams would pull it out, but the Eagles' run game and that snow just overdid it. Man, when it comes to the Eagles, so what we have, we got the Chiefs, Bills, Eagles, Commanders. I think the Bills are going to take it. I still think the Bills are going to make the championship. I don't see the Chiefs, even though, man, did they get a likely ton of calls and non-calls in their favor in that Chiefs game. Holy crap. Are they going to continue to allow that to happen? But no, I think the Bills are going to take that. This one's interesting because Jaden Daniels has turned into a really good player. And it's one of those things where if you don't account for him, he's going to make you look really, really bad. But at the same time, I don't really trust the Commanders' defense. But I'm going out on a limb here. I'm taking the Commanders. I think it's going to be the Bills Commanders in the Super Bowl, and I think the Bills are going to take it. So mark that right now. Put the money on it, whatever. Bills Commanders, and I have the Bills winning it. I just think that unless the Eagles, and I'm going to tell you how you play Jaden Daniels. You cannot blitz him every down. You cannot do that. Florida State played him last year in the opening game, and they shut him down. It was the only game that he was shut down. I think he finally showed up in the fourth quarter to play. The way they played was they sat back in coverage and let their front four, and they would blitz a defense, a linebacker or safety or whatever every now and then, but not all the time. And they just allowed their down linemen to bottle him up and sack him, disrupt his throwing, whatever, force him to throw, and they did. And that was a problem last week with the Lions kept just blitzing, and my dude was just finding the guys open downfield or was running from the blitz and breaking it downfield. You can't blitz him every down. You can hit him like every other 2 or 3 downs, blitz him. Otherwise, you got to sit in some sort of zone and force him to make bad throws. If the Eagles don't do that, it'll be the Commanders. I still think it'll be Commanders, Bills Commanders, in that Super Bowl with the Bills winning. I think the Bills are going to get their first Super Bowl ever, maybe. I don't recall them ever winning, but that's where we're at. Ohio State. Hey, I called it. I think even at the beginning of the year, I called it. As of the time I'm recording this, they're dominating Notre Dame. That could change, but I had picked Ohio State. I think on another stream I was on, I had picked Ohio State to win it all. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure I picked Ohio State to win it all. So there's that. Changing subject a little bit to get off the political nonsense. Sports wise, if you're into any other sports, basketball, baseball, hey, I ain't your guy. I used to watch basketball back when I was a kid. I haven't really watched it in the last 20 years. Baseball, I've always enjoyed playing it, but never cared to sit there and watch it. So the most I'll talk about is college football and NFL. Maybe World Cup or something from time to time or other big events, but anything else, it just ain't going to happen. Man. I was having this conversation with some people, and we're talking about, and I don't like labeling generations. I don't like doing that Generation X, Millennial, Z, whatever you want to call them. But I understand that you have the generations as far as age goes. And this younger generation of age group, it blows my mind the way they approach work. Now, I know it's not all of them. I know that every generation you have your good kids and your bad kids. But it just seems like there's more lazy bad kids now than there were before. I remember when I was growing up, late 80s and through the 90s, my grandma, Nana, would sit there and tell me and my brothers that we were part of the slacker generation. We were we were like the lazy kids. We were going to be, lazy in our generation, da 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 da. Well, she was about 30 years ahead of her time. 20, 30 years ahead of her time, because this generation takes the cake on being lazy. Where I work, and I won't get into specifics of it, but we have tasks, we have things to do, and sometimes we run out of our particular work, and so we'll pick up work from other areas and do. And that's just how it goes. And that's how you keep your job. I mean, if there isn't any work, then people are going to start being let go. So that's how you keep your job. This generation does nothing but complain about having to work. I mean, it blows my mind. I have had many, 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 many times where, like, I'll have an individual that walks around without their shoes on, and I'll say to them, put your shoes on. Put your shoes on. It's an office. Why are you walking around without your shoes? And they'll say something, either smart aleck, or they'll joke about it, or say, da, 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 da. But always walking around without their shoes, even though it's in the policy that you have to have shoes on. Do it all the time. Just flat out ignore it. They all sit there, and I'm going to bring my phone up real quick. They all sit there with their phones perched on their desk, and they're either watching YouTube or they have some sort of streaming service on, and they have to have it in front of them, or they can't breathe. It's like oxygen to them. And look, like, I won't lie, I'll have YouTube on in the background when I'm working, and I have it on there for like background noise. And sometimes I'll just play, like, I'll play some, like, it's like maybe some jazz music, like coffee house jazz, or maybe I'll put like a stream on where somebody's talking, and I'll just lower it to like a low decibel to where it's just in my ear, so I'm focused in on work. It just helps you. It's just like the frequencies, whatever it is, just gets you to focus in. But man, like, I don't have my phone on to where I got streams on, or where I got this on or that on. But yeah, like, they have to have their phones, and they sit there, and we have certain quotas that we have to do a day, which they're not a lot. And I normally am done with the quota within the first 2 hours of being at work, and then I continue to work. So I go well over what our quota should be. But we have people in this age group that have figured out that they can either waste time the first half of the day or the second half of the day just to get their quota, or they do, one here, one there, whenever, and just fart around the whole time, thinking that just doing their quota is perfectly fine for them. They also think it's perfectly fine to talk back at everybody. Like, I had this one individual a week ago. They stated that they were having an issue with assigning something to themselves on the system. So I wrote in the chat, I was like, yeah, it's a bug. They're working on it. Just move on to the next one. They're going to try to get that handled. That's all I said. So the next day we're sitting there, and in this chat, this person writes down, at 3:30 in the afternoon, I'm going to have zero production today because all my reassigns error me out. And I said, and you just now waited until 3:30 in the afternoon to tell us? And they responded with, well, you told me that they were going to get this fixed. In which I said, no. I said it was a bug that they were looking into. So the next day in our morning meeting, I bring up, I go, hey guys, if you have an issue with your computer, with your PC, as far as it's not working, or you can't reassign things to yourself, or for whatever reason, you need to say something to myself or the supervisor so we can get that handled for you. Don't wait until 3:30 in the afternoon to say something. And of course, that caused that person to pop off and just completely be upset and start blaming everybody and saying that that I told them that it was going to be fixed, and they felt they didn't have to do anything. And when I corrected him and said no, and then I said, guys, we're adults, act like adults, another one that's around the same age goes, "Oh, you're going to talk to us like kids now? I'm not going to be here for this," and walks away. So their response to being told to act like an adult is to be a kid and walk away. That is this generation. They don't want to do any work. They just want to sit around and get paid. And then they want to argue about everything and anything. And then they wonder why they don't move up. I don't even think they honestly care to move up. I think I had a conversation with them a while ago that they're in a spot where you have people that are in these offices, because we're a bunch of different offices that are career oriented. Then you have ones that are just there to collect paychecks. And these individuals are clearly there to collect paychecks. They took offense to that, of course, because no, I'm here to collect my paycheck. Of course, that's why I come to work. It's like, no, that's not what I mean. You come to work just to collect a paycheck. You don't come to work to actually work. There's other individuals that actually come here to work. And I think it was Friday, right before we left, our supervisor had said, like, other supervisors are noticing things that they were doing. And, of course, they caught an attitude. They got upset about it because, again, they're always the victim. They're never the ones that are doing anything wrong, even though they are wrong. Personally, me, if I was running things, I would fire 3 or 4 of them and just get them out of there, because you could find other people that actually want to come into work and actually want to go ahead and move up in the levels that we're at. But that's just generation. They want everything hand fed to them. They want everything given to them, and they don't want to do any work. And these are people with kids. These are young adults with kids, and this is how they act. I mean, I know a little bit has to do with how you were raised and whatnot, and I'm not saying I was perfectly raised well, but I do know how to work in an office environment. I do know that you come in, you sit at your desk, you clock in, then you go to work, you stay at your desk, you get up for your break, you get up for lunch, or you get up to the bathroom or whatever, you get up to leave. They don't want to sit there. They want to go and socialize. They want to go and talk. They want to get up every 10, 15 minutes and not be at their desk. Da, 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 da. And when you tell them they can't do this, they throw fits like a baby. I'm telling you right now, if this generation does not figure itself out, the future for us, where we're at, we are so screwed. We are so screwed because they do not care. They are only focused on themselves and the easiest way to get paid or make a buck with doing a little bit of work. And I need you to, if you're part of that generation that doesn't have these problems, I need you to stranglehold the people that do and get them on it. And I get that some people are young and they're still growing and they're still maturing. I understand that, I do. But you have to have some maturity level to understand that if you work at a specific job, you can't treat it like a fast food job. You can't treat it like a retail job. You can't treat it like a sales job. You are in a semi-professional job. I mean, you are in where you have to actually dress semi-professional, at least business casual. And don't get me started on that. I mean, because there was a lot of them there for a while that were showing up in pajamas thinking that was okay. I mean, oh my God. I find myself half the time, like, it doesn't stress me out, but I seriously want to choke the heck out of a few of them from time to time because it is irritating. They just do not want to believe that they are the problem or that they are the cause. It is wild. It is wild. Yeah, so fix your generation. So I'm seeing a lot with the fires in California. Of course, that I think they're still somewhat burning, but they're somewhat contained to the point that it's not as big of an issue as it was a week or two ago. But I have seen that there's a lot of people now that are talking about moving out of California, and obviously I can see why, because you had thousands of houses destroyed. They're not going to get insurance for that because some of the larger insurance companies, State Farm was one of them, pulled their fire insurance, and you now have people over there that had bought houses anywhere from $200,000 to $1 million, depending on what neighborhoods they were in. That there's nothing there, and they're on mortgages, and they still have to pay for this. I don't know. It's like the only way I could see them getting out of these circumstances is if they agree to the insurancer to pay it off, and the insurancer then sells that land out to a developer and tries to make money off of it that way, because I don't know if there's any other way, unless they are like the celebrities that are just multimillionaires that can just rebuild. You have thousands of people that are going to be homeless for a very long time, either living at friends' houses or living at in hotels or wherever it is, because I mean, what are you going to do? You can't get another mortgage in another state or another city yet. You can't have two mortgages. I mean, some people probably can, but a lot of those people are working class, and man, what a mess that is, and it's gonna. I still think it's gonna. So down here, when Hurricane Michael came through, it really tore up this area, Port St. Joe, in Mexico Beach, small little village towns on the coast. Mexico Beach mostly. Mexico Beach got thrashed. And Mexico Beach at the time was just a hobunk, a few condos, a lot of old houses that had been there since like the 50s and 60s, maybe a hotel or two. But wasn't much of just a drop of water, in terms of where it was. Well, after Michael came through and washed out a ton of it, I was like, man, watch, some developers going to come through and buy a lot of that land up. And I mean, in some respects, a lot of them did, because they had people that just sold out because they could not afford to be on that land anymore, could not afford to rebuild, so they sold out. And you had developers that just bought land from other commercial developers that lost buildings or whatever. And now I mean, they have huge condos and buildings across from the beach. Now it's completely different than what it was. I mean, it's still a little village town, but it's definitely a lot different than what it was. And I think that's what you're going to have happen in California. As much as they're going to try to prevent that, I mean, man, yeah, you can't. It's one thing if it was just one or two neighborhoods, you could see about that bouncing back. But just the amount of what was destroyed, it'll be hard placed to see all the same people, or even a third of the same people, hell, even maybe a quarter of the same people come back and live in those areas. But I have seen a lot of celebrities saying that they're looking to leave California now, if they lost their house or whatever. And yeah, I've seen Texas, Georgia, and Florida. Those are all the three that they always think about moving to, because one, you have a lot of entertainment-based stuff. Georgia, of course, and Atlanta, because a lot of the studios, most of the movies and studios now film out of Georgia. I mean, I know they still do it out of California, but I think they even said like in Atlanta, every year more is filmed out of that city and state than anywhere else in the country. Florida is just a paradise for celebrities. It's like a little playground, and it's an easy, from Miami to Atlanta, it's like maybe a 4-hour flight, 4-hour flight. I mean, hell, John Travolta lives in Ocala and has his own airport there. I remember when they were filming The Punisher in the early 2000s. He would hop in his plane in the morning, fly to Tampa, 15-minute flight, film all day, and then fly back to Ocala where he lives. I mean, I could see a lot of that happening. So you're probably going to see a lot of, I mean, except for maybe the ones that were born and raised in LA. Of course, that's where they're from. But the ones that weren't born and raised in LA, I would not be shocked if you see them leave the state, especially maybe the ones on the conservative side, because that would definitely be the last straw for them, because they hate the politics and the Newsom and the stuff over there. Besides that, I can't. I mean, Trump coming in again. Some people might not like it. Some people will like it. College play or championship, NFL playoffs are going strong. I mean, there's not too much else. I mean, the hostages, and there was an agreement of ceasefire between Israel and Israel. We'll set it like the Smurfs. Israel and Hamas, for what that is, for how long it is, who knows? But apparently that's there. So they're exchanging hostages. Again, that whole thing's a damn mess. Say what you will on that. I don't really get involved with that. It's nothing really to do with me either way, so it is what it is. Um, but yeah, it will be interesting to see with this cartel announcement because Trump is a wild card. I mean, he missile dropped that general from Iran in Iraq, so I wouldn't put it past him to go after these cartels with the military right away, and that is an interesting prospect because I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Clear and Present Danger. It was a Harrison Ford movie. He plays Jack Ryan, and it was about cartels bringing drugs across the border, and it starts off with a murder, cartel hit, and so special forces are sent in. I think it might have been Colombia. I'm not exactly sure, but yeah, I mean they go in and they hit the cartels, and what happens? The cartels strike back and they go after American politicians, and that'll be interesting to see because it's always been like this kind of standoff with the cartels where it's if you stay on your side, that's Mexico's business. Just don't come across our side because then we'll take care of it. And then of course there was the whole rumor that after 9/11 that the government went to the cartels and basically stated that they would turn a blind eye to their acts coming across the border as long as they would report to them or keep Muslim radicals for coming across the Mexican border. I think there's been some speculation that there were actual orders and papers out there of it. I don't know. I know that there were rumors about it that they basically agreed to have the Mexican cartels patrol the borders on their side to make sure they weren't coyoteing Muslim extremists over. Yeah, again, it'll be very, very interesting to see how quick or if Trump acts on that situation because that could get scary. That could get somewhat weird. But I mean, those cartels, they've been a problem down there since what, 40s or 50s, maybe even longer than that. But yeah, I'm gonna make this one a quick one. It's only been about 45 minutes, but it is what it is. But we're gonna end it on that, and I'll come back in tomorrow and we'll do some more. Besides that, I mean, hey, I hope you guys, have a good night. Take care of yourselves. Stay warm. Definitely, that's not a good one to go out with. Let's go out with this one. Definitely stay warm. I mean, if you're going out in some of these areas, wrap up. Stay warm. But down here, hey, if we get any snow, I'll let you guys know. I'll try to take some pictures and we'll get them up on the next stream. I don't think it'll be too much, but if we do, I'll put it out there. But until then, hey, stay peaceful. Look out for each other. Don't do anything I wouldn't